Welcome to this webinar titled How the EU Plans to Kill Direct Marketing. It's quite a popular subject at the moment. Seems as though more and more people are switching on to the fact that the EU data regulation is real, it is coming, and you have to prepare for it. My name's Graham Smith. I'm the Marketing Director for SCI Sales Group. Got about 30 years experience in B2B marketing. A member of the Chartered Institute of Marketing and Fellow of the Institute of Sales and Marketing Management. I also sit on the Telemarketing Council at the Direct Marketing Association. Today's webinar, as I say, about the EU data regulation, how to maybe avoid becoming a victim. Let's kick off. So we're hoping to discuss a number of points. First of all, we're going to look at the when, why, where, how of the EUDR. There's a 3-point action plan as well to maybe help you navigate around this new piece of legislation. There's some unique research on direct marketing and opt-in, and obviously there's a Q&A session at the end of it. There is a button in the top right hand corner where you will be able to text some questions to me, and I'll obviously do my very best to answer them. Hopefully this whole thing will take about 25 minutes, so without further delay I'll get into the guts of it. So the first thing to mention is the fact that there is no definite date for this new piece of legislation. Likelihood is that the law will be passed first half of 2015, and then it will become enforceable during first half of 2017. It's likely that they'll give you a 2-year grace period in which to prepare for this piece of legislation. Important point is that it's a regulation, not a directive. Directives give you a little bit of wriggle room. Or give each country a little bit of wriggle room. So although it's a law, each country is allowed to interpret the law in a slightly different way. With a regulation, that doesn't happen. A regulation means it's the same law in every single EU state. And to be honest, we welcome that. For far too long, each country has had their own rules and regulations regarding data and opt-in. It's about time we had uniformity. So what is personal data? The personal data and consent. The law is going to state that you need explicit consent, and as you can see, that's through a clear statement or affirmative action. Now, that doesn't make it very clear as to what exactly the authorities, are going to be looking for. So is ticking a box on a website sufficient? But how does that translate to other forms of marketing? So for example, with telemarketing, what would be considered to be explicit consent? If I phone you and say, like to introduce a new product to you, oh, you're not quite ready yet, okay, can I store your details so that we can send you email updates occasionally? If you say yes, is that considered to be explicit consent? And how do I prove that? Am I going to have to store a recording of the call where you said yes, so that in 6 months' time when you query it, I can prove that you said yes? It's unlikely that by the time this becomes law, that the authorities will make it very clear as to what constitutes explicit consent. They'll probably let the courts decide. So be prepared. There will be a couple of very high-profile cases where authorities in each country will take a company to court because they haven't obtained explicit consent, and try to make an example of them. If you work for one of the bigger brands, then this is something that you need to seriously consider. The law applies to both B2C and B2B data. There is no difference as far as this new law is concerned. And yeah, it changes what is, in many countries, a broadly opt-out system to an opt-in rule. You will not be able to contact your prospects via any form of direct marketing, be it telephone, through the post, or digital and electronic. You will not be able to contact them without their explicit consent and opt-in. So what is personal B2B data? You can see some examples on screen. Yeah, it's what you would expect, the usual stuff, you know, name, job title, work email address, but it now also applies to direct telephone numbers. Switchboard numbers, no, but direct telephone numbers, yes. And for those of you that are using some sort of marketing automation, it also relates to actions and behaviors. So you send out an email, someone clicks on a particular link. Normally you would store that in the CRM. You now need their consent to store their actions and behaviors. Same rule would apply if they visited your website and requested some white papers from your website. That is an action or behavior, and you would need their explicit consent to store that. Computer IP addresses, they are now, under this new law, going to be considered to be personal information, and the implications of that, as you can imagine, are huge. One of the things that I wanted to touch upon is that this new law doesn't just apply to the sales and marketing department. What we're advising all of our clients is get your data IT department involved in this. In fact, we're recommending that maybe you should put together some sort of task force that includes as many departments as you can imagine that would be touched by this. So that could include the customer service department, the data department, finance department, because guess what? Somebody's got to pay for the changes that you're going to need to make. The right to be forgotten. This has had a little bit of press coverage recently, in particular vis-a-vis Google. So to date, or back in August rather, Google said that so far they have received over 30 million deletion requests under the right to be forgotten. This has huge implications in terms of administration. Is it likely that you as a B2B marketing executive are going to receive a lot of requests to be forgotten? Personally, I think it's unlikely. I think this is probably more for B2C rather than B2B. But nevertheless, you need to be made aware of it. The regulation states that if someone requests for you to remove their data under the right to be forgotten, you've got to remove it obviously from your CRM, but also you've got to think about whether any of that information you have published on the internet. If you have, again, you have to remove it by some means. There is an argument that the right to be forgotten conflicts with my right to remember, but that's something for lawyers and MPs or MEPs to discuss. Data held outside the EU. Some people have suggested, but my CRM is held by the head office in Toronto. It doesn't matter. The law applies to EU citizens regardless of where that data is held. And the law applies regardless of where your emails are broadcast from. So if you're currently using a company in India to broadcast your emails to EU citizens, the same law applies. And if you are one of the larger brands, and I think it's the larger brands that are likely to be the focus for the authorities, you are going to need to employ or designate a data protection officer if you employ more than 250 staff. That threshold is actually quite low. There's quite a number of companies in the UK that employ more than 250. They're going to have to get themselves a data protection officer, and it will be that person's job, just like your health and safety officer. It will be that person's job to ensure that your company complies. So there will be a policeman internally within your organisation. Externally, it's going to be what's known as the National Supervisory Authority. So in the UK, that's going to be the ICO. I'm sure that all of you, being bona fide companies, have registered your CRM with the ICO, so they're well aware that you've got a CRM full of lovely prospects. And these will be the guys that will investigate any breaches. Has to be said that they won't investigate until there's been a complaint. So if one of your prospects complains about the fact that they've received emails from you and didn't consent, it will be the ICO that comes knocking. And if you're in a larger company, it will be your data protection officer that sits in the meeting and queries where it all went wrong. The fines, huge. It was recently suggested that actually these figures are going to go up, that instead of it being £1 million, it's going to be £10 million, and instead of 2% of global turnover, it could be as high as 3 or 5. Either way, fairly scary figures. So what can you do? Here's where we get to the bit where we talk about how to react to this new legislation. And I just want to make the point that it is time to act now. We were speaking to one prospect who has a CRM full of 300,000 names. On that basis, they would need to get 10,000 of those names every single month to opt in between now and 2017. Quite clearly, that is a mammoth task. So don't stick your head in the sand and hope the problem goes away, because it's not going to. Time is ticking. The legislation is real. It is going to happen. You need to build a plan. Alternatively, you could wait for your rivals to do something and then follow the leader. Well, you're making a big assumption there. The assumption is that your rivals have got it right, that what they are doing complies with the law. What if it doesn't? You're just following someone who's made an error, and their error becomes yours. So we would suggest that each company, as I say, produces some sort of task force made up of sales and marketing department, data department, customer services department, finance, as many departments as are necessary within your organization, and you come up with your own unique response. The alternative is obviously that you become a leader and take the lead. Don't wait for your rivals. Do it now, because your rivals may not do anything for another year. And we have a 3-point action plan for you. We say it's get consent, get content, get calling. So if we deal with the first, which is to get consent. So traditionally the way that you get consent is via some sort of tick box on the website. And yes, that can still work, that still applies. But think creatively about other ways in which you can get consent. And telemarketing, as I'll show you later, is actually a very effective way of gaining consent. But we've done some research on this whole issue of consent and opt-in, and I just want to reveal the results of some of that to you. Because the type of consent that you request impacts whether people will tick the box or not. So here's the results of some research. On the left you can see we asked people about whether they would opt in for details about a company's full range of products or details about a single product, a product that maybe they had originally expressed interest in. So if it's a company that they know, and by that we don't mean that they're an existing customer, i.e. it's just a brand that they're familiar with. So if it's a company that they know, they're just as likely to opt in for details about the full range of your services as they are for details about a single product. However, if it's a company that they don't know, so this really is the prospect data. They're perhaps unfamiliar with your brand, your company, or maybe even unfamiliar with your product. It's more likely that they will opt in if you ask them about consenting to receive details about a single product, rather than trying to persuade them to opt in for the full range of your products. So the way in which you go about opting in and getting consent clearly impacts the uptake. Be wary of trying to force people into receiving details about every single product that you have. So get content. As a marketer, you will be well aware of the benefits of content marketing. It's a great way of getting people to opt in. We agree to send you free, interesting knowledge, in return for which you consent for us to send you a regular email about that knowledge. It's a tried and tested formula and very popular. And therein lies the problem. It's going to get more popular, because realistically one of the few ways in which you are in the future going to be able to get consent is via content marketing. So you can imagine that those companies that are not currently using content marketing will jump on the bandwagon prior to 2017. Those that are already using content will just boost their content marketing engine. Again, we've done some research on this. Don't believe that every manager, higher and intermediate manager, views work-related content. Our research shows that roughly 40% don't view work-related content. So you're not reaching 100% of the audience. Just be aware of that. Most of them spend between 30 to 60 minutes per week digesting that content. And then we ask them another question, which is, well, how much more time could you spend digesting this content and knowledge documents? Well, 36% say they have no more time, and that's now. Right now, they have no more time. By 2017, as everybody ramps up their content marketing, that figure is going to jump. People simply don't have the time to digest an infinite amount of content. So does that mean that content marketing starts to become a little less effective? We think the likelihood is that that's true. If you're not doing content now, if you've not ramped up your engine now, you need to do so, but be prepared for the fact that the return on investment that you get post 2017 is likely to fall. Get calling. So you can see here the typical sort of fields that you would have in a CRM, the company name, their address, full name of the contact, his or her job title, email address, and the main telephone number, the switchboard number. What happens post 2017? Well, the full name, job title, and email will disappear unless you have consent and opt-in from that person. So email marketing becomes difficult without an email address. Direct mail becomes ineffective if you're not able to address it to a named individual. Sending a direct mail, an expensive direct mail piece through the post addressed to Dear Managing Director is unlikely to get the sort of response that you're looking for. However, look at what we do have. We have the company name, their address, and their switchboard number. Switchboard number is all you need in order to make a cold call. Sure, navigating around the receptionist and the gatekeeper is going to be challenging, but it's not the same as direct mail and email marketing, which are pretty much dead in the water. At least you have a chance, and really good sales agents have the skills to be able to navigate around the receptionist and gatekeeper. Switchboard telephone numbers are not personal data, and therefore they are outside of the regulation. And I also want to highlight some other or another benefit of telemarketing. We are currently doing a campaign, telemarketing campaign for a well-known tech company. And they've told us that opt-in via their web form on their website is roughly about 1%. And looking around at other companies, it varies 1, maybe 3% if you're really lucky, sometimes as low as 0.5%. But we're finding with this telemarketing campaign that we're able to achieve opt-in of 15%. And if you think about it logically, that does make sense. A web form can't handle all of the objections that your prospects are likely to come up with, whereas a good sales agent will be able to handle those objections. They're experienced in it. So when the person says, oh, I don't want to opt in for the email, thank you very much, I already get too many, the sales agent will be able to deal with that objection by saying perhaps, well, we're only sending out 8 emails per year. Why don't I send you an example of the last email that we sent? And they can send that while they've got them on the phone, and then go through the email and highlight all the benefits that were in that e-newsletter or whatever it may be. So it's the objection handling that is a benefit of trying to get opt-in via telemarketing. And the stats you can see on screen, they really do speak for themselves. So to wrap this up, the EU data regulation is real, it's coming. There's an awful lot of people that are saying, oh, they'll never do it. They are. And speaking with the DMA, Direct Marketing Association, they're certainly taking it seriously. They've done some research which suggests that 33% of companies have not prepared for the EU data regulation. I would actually say that figure may well be higher. If you're one of them, you need to start taking action now, because it would appear that 66% of companies have taken action, and one of those could be your competitors. Form a task force, this cross-departmental task force that I've spoken about before. Start doing that now, today if possible. Send out an email trying to get together some guys and formulate your own plan. Don't follow what your rivals are doing. And then finally, the 3-point action plan could form the basis of a discussion for your task force. Get consent now, start to boost your content engine, and budget, important, budget for more cold calling in the future, because that's going to be one of the few ways in which you can navigate around the EU data regulation. Okay, so that's the end of this webinar. If you have any questions, then as I said, top right hand corner, there's a little button there. You'll be able to send me a text message with whatever questions you might have. You can also see on screen my email address and telephone number, so if you want to ask me a question which maybe is confidential and you don't want it broadcast, please do email me, gsmith@scisalesgroup.com. Also want to direct you to our web address, www.scisalesgroup.com. There is a knowledge section on our website, and there you will find PowerPoints and infographics and a page dedicated to the EU data regulation. Please download the knowledge documents and share them with your colleagues. Okay, so there's a question coming in. How does the EU data regulation apply to direct mail? Well, I guess it's in two ways. The first is that obviously any lists that you might rent for the purpose of direct mail, you will need to ensure that that the names on that list have opted in, and they've opted in to receive information from unspecified companies, because if those individuals opted in to receive information from XYZ company, you are not XYZ company, therefore you cannot send them material through the post. Those individuals will have to have opted in for marketing information from any company. The second aspect is that yes, you've got to make sure that your own CRM is prepared for opt-in, so that may well mean a chat with your data IT department. And then finally, I guess you've got to accept that if you don't have opt-in, that you may well have to send direct mail to a job title. So, dear marketing director, probably not as effective, and you're going to have to consider that and the impact that that has on ROI. Okay, thank you very much for joining this webinar. I said that it would take 25 minutes, and here we are on 26 minutes. Again, I would direct you to our website where there is lots of material about the EU data regulation. Start preparing for it now. Thank you again for joining me, and I hope your day is profitable.